So tell us about the Jade Egg.
Great. Just on a side note, I've taught a lot in England, in London especially,
Mm.
many retreats for many years. And so there's a small population of you who are interested and who are I would call like the leading edge pioneers in Britain. There's a group of women who are like, okay, I know that there's more to sex than what I've learned. I want to learn more and I want to come home to my body, or I've had sexual trauma, or I've had a bunch of babies. I need to recover my pelvic floor health, or I'm going through menopause and this is so hard, or I've been through menopause and this is so hard. So there are many reasons why a person would come towards this particular practice. So it's not, um, sometimes when we hear something new, we're like, oh, that's way too kinky. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And so I want to bring it back to normalcy. So first, before I talk about the jade egg, let's talk about maybe some of the benefits that emerge from doing it as like using that as a practice.
Mm.
So the first and fundamental thing is pelvic health for all women across all ages is an issue. And the reason for that I say that is most pelvic health imbalances are something that's preventable. Preventable through two things. One, proper exercise of the pelvic region to really understand what to do in terms of an exercise program for your pelvis. This will eliminate almost all issues, just knowing how to properly exercise this area of your body. And the reason we need to do that is we are a sitting culture. And because we sit, women as young as in their 20s have atrophied pelvises. And when a pelvis is atrophied, there's not enough blood flow and there's a lot of problems that can happen. So that's the caveat, the information for the physical bit. The second thing is the emotional part. So when I teach Jade Egg, it's not just about physical technique. We actually learn that there's no separation in our psychosexual being.
Mm.
It's interwoven. And so all the issues, the female imbalance issues, came from a doctor called Dr. Sarno. He wrote a book called The Divided Mind. And he speaks about this epidemic of psychosomatic illness. It does not lessen the illness, actually. The illnesses can be
Mm.
just as intense. But what he realized is the underlying cause behind almost majority of illness was this break in the psyche's connection with the body.
Mm.
And so when done properly, the jade egg returns us home to our body. It helps bring our conscious mind, the part of you that's aware, to become aware somatically. That means through physical sensations of what's actually happening in your pelvic area and your genitals. This is crucial. It's crucial because as young women, we are actually socialized outside of even noticing our arousal cues, outside of even being attuned to what that part of our body is saying. And I'm not just talking about sexual turn on, I'm talking about delight. I'm talking about health. I'm talking about periods that don't hurt. These kinds of things. Really, really important.
Mm. Well, that kind of leads me on to my next question, really, because I am a herbalist and a naturopath and do energy healing. And before this, I was a stripper and I had some trauma and issues going on, and I had endometriosis type symptoms. I had precancerous cells, all sorts of things going on down there. And I kind of cured myself with herbs and nutrition. And yeah, one of my main questions actually was, does the Jade Egg practice help with physical conditions like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is, and this is not magical.
Mm.
Imagine an area of your body that is atrophied. It's not getting enough blood flow and lymph flow. So it's not getting enough oxygen and nutrition. What do you think the state of the condition of the tissue is going to be? It's going to degenerate. So the pelvic floor, because it's not being exercised properly, there's a lot of stagnation in the area. When we start doing practices with the jade egg, two things are happening. One, of course, you're infusing your consciousness there. That alone already creates a shift, huge shift. Secondly, the practices themselves create more blood flow, lymph flow, oxygenation, so that all the stagnant blood and things that are moving So the tissues themselves become more vibrant. Now, I'll share a personal experience. I had cell changes on my cervix. And in order to make sure it wasn't cancer, they did a biopsy where they take a chunk out.
Yeah.
And I actually watched that surgery on a screen. It was very traumatic. But they cut a huge chunk of my cervix out. I never in my mind thought I need to heal my cervix, and I didn't think of those things. But through doing Jade Egg practice and just continuing on my own and healing my body and my heart, because it was also very traumatic. Now when a doctor looks at my cervix, they can't even see scar tissue. They don't even know that I've had surgery. They think I just have this perfect cervix. They're like, my God, it's like,
Wow.
There's no way you had surgery. So it regrew itself without even leaving scarring. And this is a really important thing, because that would naturally occur if something is well oxygenated, a lot of blood flow, lymph flow, there's good nerve signaling. That can't happen if we don't understand how to exercise the part of the pelvis. So not all Jade Egg practice is healthy for you. There's many practitioners kind of teaching things in an old school fashion, I'll say. And over the years, after doing this for almost 2 decades, I've discovered there's some harmful ways of using the egg that actually can elicit more scarring or more even numbing. Initially, it might look like it's doing something, but long-term use is actually not so great. And then there's a really great way of working with the Jade Egg that's not only about tone and tightness, but also equally teaches the pelvic floor how to become soft and relaxed and open, and teaches the pelvic floor how to become dexterous, which means the different groups of muscles learn to fire in different moments consciously.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm just gonna butt in here because I just wanted to ask you something to do with the Jade Egg. And that is you have Kegels, and that's about tight, tight, tight. And the Jade Egg is, like you said, also about suppleness. But I know a lot of women would be scared of putting it inside them, and I'm just wondering, because I remember seeing something that you said about when your yoni is ready to invite something in, it actually sucks it in rather than pushing it in, kind of thing. And I just wondered if you could, I don't know, go into a bit more on that, that side.
Sure. Okay, so the way that we're designed vaginally, there's obviously designed for birth, incredible design for birth. I mean, so many things change to allow a beautiful baby to emerge into the world. Incredible. So that's like a pushing down and out feature that's innate into the feminine body. The one feature that is also innate, but that doesn't get articulated purely out of lack of education, is our capacity to draw in or pull into ourselves. And it's definitely something women can learn. It can take a little bit of time to learn it, but when we learn it, something magical happens. So imagine, let this hand be like the egg or finger, and this hand is like my vagina and the inner lips. And so I bring the egg here and I let it rest. The capacity for the vagina, if allowed and exercised properly, is to do this.
Awesome.
Right?
That's what you want.
That's what we want. Now, but we spent a whole life pushing things into our vaginas, whether they're tampons or doctors' speculums or partners, our own fingers, doesn't matter. There's things that we just kind of push in, and it's an inactivity. It's so receptivity isn't a passive act. Receptivity is an active act, and suppleness and softening and melting open isn't passive. It's an active way of receiving. So you're actively receiving.
Wow.
And what's beautiful about that, and this is quite amazing, because say I've worked with a lot of married women who have had a lot of intercourse over however long their marriages are, One woman, she was married, I think, 25 years, and she liked intercourse, but just liked it. It wasn't like her favorite thing. There were other things she preferred. And she said once she learned that sipping, intercourse went from okay and likable to out of this world, outstanding, freaking incredible. Like, oh my God, I never knew this was possible. Why? Many reasons. One, this practice alone, just that one practice, is innervating your pelvis. That means creating new nerve endings where you may not have had sensation before, you start to have sensation. So for me, it's like waking up the sleeping beauty, right?
Yeah.
Another is there's more, so because of that, there's more sensitivity and aliveness. There's more localized production of fluids. So a woman becomes a lot juicier. In fact, I know an elder who'd been dry for years, and her intercourse was so painful, her and her husband kind of gave up on it. And then one day, after a bit of time with the Jade Egg, he said, "Oh my God, you are so wet." And she's like, "I am." And he's like, "Yes." And they had beautiful lovemaking like they hadn't had in years, like over a decade. And her yoni has been so vibrant and alive. And they've just like they're new teenagers together again. So there's this thing that happens through this process of waking up with more blood flow and cellular energy and just this whole repatterning where you're not just shoving something in, but you're literally an empowered woman who's in her sexual sovereignty, who's inviting something in because she desires it with her whole being, is a whole other experience than just kind of being passive and having something push into you and you're not quite ready, or you're not really, you're like, okay, that's nice, but
Yeah.
or even if you really like intercourse, because for me it also really transformed. And then the gift of that, oh my God, the gift of that is a vagina with consciousness. I mean, that's how it's been translated by the men who have partners who can do this. They're like, I ain't going back to anything else. This is absolutely exceptional. There is nothing in the world like an awakened yoni. Nothing.
Wow.
It is so satisfying because you don't need a lot of movement when you have that much awakening. So all that really hard thrusting just to get a bit of sensation, sometimes lovemaking can look like hardly moving at all, and there's just so much pleasure and sensation. So it opens up the realm of possibility for women and men in a massive way.
Yeah, and energetically as well, when a woman is awakened in that way, that I just think the energy of the female energy of the cervix and the womb and the yoni, just like, I don't know, I've read quite a bit about tantra and things recently, and just, like de-armoring the yoni and allowing the cervix to dilate and invite things in, and just that, yeah, like you said, you don't even need any movement, and it can be multi-orgasmic, full body orgasmic, just from that. And yeah, wow. And so the Jade Egg can really help with these things. And
Yeah. So just a little caveat, the egg itself can't do that for you. But how you use it, your relationship to yourself and the building of the bridge of your consciousness with the somatic experience is what's doing and eliciting that. So the jade egg kind of becomes like a girl's best friend.
yeah.
And it's very, very empowering for a woman to understand her body that way and become very masterful with her own body. It's empowering because now you're not thinking that pleasure is outside of yourself, or that though you need these particular conditions to have an orgasm, because suddenly you're entraining your body to set yourself up for having more and more pleasure. And that's what's exciting about it, is when women recognize that they're not dependent on an external source for their pleasure, then there's a liberation in that. And then like, well, if I don't need a partner, then what the hell is relationship for? I'm like, it's not about that. It's about, you may not need a partner, but you can desire playing and delighting with another. And that's the beauty of it. But you're removing the full responsibility and heaviness of this other person having to elicit all these sensations in your body, because you've now claimed for yourself that, wow, I'm the one generating all this pleasure. And
that's
actually, yeah, go ahead.
that's just such a relief. Like, I can just hear women all around, just a sigh of relief just from that. Sorry, carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's this piece is so important because without this piece, then what we tend to do is we bargain for love and sex. We negotiate our non-negotiables. We put up with things that we know in our hearts and our bodies we just don't want in our lives, but we do it because we don't really feel the freedom to move forward or really claim what's important for us. So what I've noticed for women with this practice is not only in the bedroom are they more expressed and confident and relaxed and having more fun, but also in the world, like how they create their relationships, how they give their gift in their careers, all how they parent. Oh my gosh, how you parent is like huge. How you relate to other people, massive. How you relate to other women. These things shift in a way where you become a walking, living inspiration and no one freaking knows why. They just know that you smile a lot more. They're like, why is she always smiling? And I know in England, smiling is not that popular. Um, because frivolous is often associated with smiling and happiness. But being able to smile inwardly, like being able to just have a little piece of private delight, whether or not you're partnered, that you yourself have a resource that you can tune into, that independent of anything else, you can drop in and go, gosh, yum, I've got me. I'm like, I'm enough. That's a place where you start to develop what I call the gourmet offering. Most relationships, we are beggars. We come forward with this little bowl and we're like, listen, Jackie, you need to provide me with 600 orgasms this week and emotional security and like whatever else my bowl requires. And you do the same to me. So we're two beggars begging for fulfillment instead of two people with gourmet plates going, hey, check out my plate. Look, it's super tasty. And and then when you try to bargain with me going, hey, I got this like cheap pizza, you know, and you're like, well, actually I don't need it. I got this gourmet plate. However, if you would like to join me, great, but I'm not going to bargain um, for love anymore.
Yeah.
That's a really crucial piece in creating happiness in one's life. And it comes from self and it comes from having a degree of sexual mastery and at homeness in being a feminine creature and being this emotional, cyclical, expressed, and instinctual animal.